They say time heals all wounds, but sometimes it rots the opportunity. In a world addicted to waiting for the right time, how many dreams die in silence? A startup idea scribbled in a dusty notebook, a love letter never sent, a business left on maybe tomorrow. The truth is, inaction is not neutral. It's a slow decision, and often a dangerous one. Psychologists call this the omission bias. Our brain natural tendency to judge harmful actions more harshly than harmful inactions. Example, if someone crashes a car recklessly, we say, what a fool. But if someone fails to hit the brakes and lets the car roll off a cliff, we often say, well, they didn't mean to. Funny, isn't it? Let's get even more real. Imagine this. You're on a plane. The engine is failing. The pilot has two choices. Try a risky emergency landing or keep flying, hoping the other engine holds out. One is action with uncertainty. The other is inaction with hope. But here's the catch. Hope isn't a plan. And sometimes, not doing anything is the most dangerous thing you can do. Ever noticed how we romanticize rock bottom? We love stories of the person who lost everything, hit their lowest point, then rose from the ashes like a phoenix? But what about the ones who just hovered above rock bottom forever, stuck in the thinking phase? They didn't act boldly enough to crash, but never moved enough to rise. That's the trap of passive survival. You're not failing, but you're also not growing. You're not dying, but you're not really alive either. And here's where it gets psychological. Psychologists call this status quo bias. It's the irrational preference to keep things as they are, even if change might lead to something better. Why? Because action demands responsibility. If you move and fail, it's on you. But if you stay still and fail, you can blame circumstances, timing, the market, your parents, or even the weather. It's safer, emotionally, but safe doesn't build anything. Imagine a man standing in a slowly flooding room. He sees the water rising, but he says, let's wait, maybe it'll stop. Spoiler, it rarely stops. And when it does, you're still wet, still cold, and the floorboards are rotting underneath you. Smart risk means acknowledging that waiting has a cost. Sometimes, doing nothing is doing something. It's choosing decline, disguised as patience. And the longer you wait, the more it feels like you're being strategic, when really, you're just scared. Now let's talk about a funny little myth. I'll act when I'm ready. Sounds wise, right? Like you're just being responsible, timing the leap perfectly. But here's the truth bomb. Ready is a moving target. Your brain will keep shifting the goalposts every time you get close. It's like standing at the edge of a pool saying, I'll jump in when the water feels warmer. But the water doesn't change. You do. The fear you feel, that's not a signal to stop. That's often a sign you're exactly where growth begins. This is what psychologists call preparation paralysis. We convince ourselves that if we just read one more book, take one more course, watch one more motivational video, then we'll be good to go. But information without application, that's just intellectual hoarding. Let's get real again. Imagine a chef who keeps studying recipes, collecting spices, upgrading kitchen tools, but never actually lights the stove. At some point, you gotta cook. Even if you burn the first dish. Because clarity comes from doing, not from thinking about doing. Want to know a secret? Most successful people aren't the best. They're just the ones who started, adjusted, and kept moving. They weren't 100% ready. They just decided not to wait for permission. Because the world rarely hands you a perfect moment. You have to build your moment by moving, risking, and being okay with a little mess. Perfection isn't the goal. Momentum is. Let's go deeper. Ever wonder why doing something new feels heavier than just staying where you are? It's not laziness. It's your brain protecting you from perceived danger, even if that danger is just sending an email, speaking up, or quitting that job you secretly hate. There's a term for this, status quo bias. It's the mental shortcut that tells you, if I stick with what I know, I'll stay safe. But here's the trap. The status quo isn't safe. It's just familiar. Like a slow leak in your ceiling, just because the house hasn't. T collapse yet docen T mean it. 1T. A lot of people stay in mediocre relationships, stuck jobs, or lifeless routines, not because they're truly okay, but because the discomfort of change feels scarier than the dull ache of staying the same. But you know what's scarier? Waking up 10 years later, realizing nothing changed, because you didn't. Here's a quick story. A man once stood at a crossroads in a forest. One path was overgrown, risky, steep, the other was smooth, familiar, easy. He stood there for hours, thinking. A stranger walked by and said, just pick one. The man replied, I'm waiting for a sign. The stranger smiled. Time is the sign. How many of us are standing at that fork, waiting for permission? Let this be the moment you stop, take a deep breath, and step. Even if it's clumsy, even if it's small. Because the first step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to happen. Let's talk about a hidden truth most people avoid. You will never feel 100% ready. And waiting to feel ready is the fastest way to miss life. Think about it. Was anyone really ready to become a parent? Start a business? Move to a new country? Face heartbreak? No one wakes up with a flashing green light in their brain saying, now, go chase your dreams. you're fully prepared. That moment doesn't exist. And yet, that's what so many are waiting for. A moment that feels calm, certain, obvious, but growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from movement through discomfort. Let's flip this with a little humor. You don't wait to feel confident to go to the gym. You go to the gym, then get confident. You don't wait to feel fluent to start speaking a language. You speak and make weird mistakes. Then you get fluent. Confidence doesn't lead to action. Action leads to confidence. Here's a fun psychological trick called the progress loop. You take action, you gain experience, you build confidence. The confidence fuels your next action. But if you never take step one, the loop never starts. And here's something wild. Your brain is wired to reward motion, not just success. Studies show that simply making progress, even a little, releases dopamine. That means small wins don't just feel good. They train your brain to keep going. You're not lazy. You're stuck in a waiting room called someday. But guess what? Someday is not a day of the week, and later is just fear wearing a fake mustache. Strip the disguise. Start ugly, start unsure, start now. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a cold swimming pool. You dip one toe in, freezing. So, you wait. Then another toe, still cold. You hesitate more. Eventually, you shiver yourself into doing nothing at all. Sound familiar? This is what hesitation looks like in real life. It grows stronger the longer you wait. There's a psychological term for this. The hesitation trap. It's when micro delays become Here's how it plays out. You delay sending that message, gives someone else gets the opportunity. You delay starting, your podcast gives, and someone with less talent takes the spotlight. You delay investing, gives, the market moves without you. Action delayed becomes permission denied. Now let's throw in a bit of humor, because this gets ridiculous. Your brain is like that overthinking friend at a restaurant. You ask, what should I order? They say, I don't know. Maybe pasta. But what if the sauce is bad? What if it's too heavy? Should we just go home and cook instead? You'll be starving by the time they decide. That's you, with your own life decisions. But here's the thing. Life doesn't wait. Opportunities don't pause while you The world keeps moving, with or without your participation. Now, let's add one more twist to this story. Every time you say not now, your brain gets more comfortable with not ever. It's called neural adaptation. Basically, the brain adapts to inaction. It rewires your baseline to avoid motion. So even if an amazing opportunity knocks later, you'll be so used to sitting still, you won't stand up to open the door. Here's the cure. Shock your system. Do something bold. Do something awkward. Do something you'll laugh about later. Because even the wrong action teaches you more than endless hesitation. Hesitation is silent erosion. But movement, even messy, clumsy, imperfect movement, builds power. One step, then another. And soon, you're not afraid of the cold pool anymore. You're swimming in it. Let's talk about discipline, not the boring version. Not the wake up at 5 a.m., drink kale smoothies, meditate on a mountain kind of discipline. I mean real world. Messy, make dash it, dash happen, dash even, dash win, dash you, dash done, SED, dash light, dash it discipline. Because here's the twist most people miss. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about reducing the gap between knowing and doing. You already know what to do. Start the side hustle. Cut that toxic friendship. Go to the gym. Launch the product, speak your truth. Knowing isn't the problem. The gap is in the doing. And the only bridge that closes that gap, discipline. Let's kill a myth right now. Discipline isn't motivation's cousin. It's motivation's replacement. Motivation is the excited friend who shows up when it's sunny. When the music's right, when your shirt fits perfectly. Discipline is the old friend who shows up in the rain with no umbrella and says, let's go anyway. It's not flashy. It's not romantic. It doesn't always feel good in the moment. But discipline is what moves the needle. Want proof? Look at athletes. They don't train when they feel like it. They train because it's part of who they are. Discipline isn't something you do. It's something you become. Let's take a quick detour through your brain again. There's a region called the prefrontal cortex. It handles decision-making and willpower. Every time you act in alignment with your goal, even in a tiny way, this part strengthens. It's like going to the gym, but for your identity. Each act of discipline is a vote for the future version of yourself. Here's the funny part. When you start doing this, people around you will get uncomfortable. They'll say things like, you've changed. Why are you working so hard? You should chill. Because your discipline shines a light on their excuses. Don't dim it. Because once you build that momentum, something wild happens. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop needing to be convinced. You simply become the kind of person who does what needs to be done, regardless of mood, weather, or external approval. You go from, I should do this, ... double, and that shift. That's where real change begins. Let's zoom in on a trap. Almost everyone falls into over-planning. Sounds productive, right? Planning feels like progress. You're sketching your business idea, organizing folders, color-coding the vision board. But here's a truth that stings a little. Overplanning is just fear in a productivity costume. It is a sneaky form of procrastination where you feel busy but you're not actually moving. Imagine this. You want to start a YouTube channel? So you spend 3 weeks researching the best camera, another 2 weeks picking the perfect niche, then you get stuck choosing fonts, titles, thumbnails, and 3 months later, no video, no upload, no momentum. Why? Because the brain loves to stay in the thinking phase. It's safe, controlled, and has zero chance of public failure. But real growth, real opportunity, they live in the doing phase. And doing is messy. You will make ugly things at first. Your first podcast episode might sound like you recorded it in a tunnel. Your first product might flop. Your first sales call might be awkward, but that's the cost of building something real. Here's a rule worth tattooing to your forehead. Start ugly, stay consistent. Improv fast. You don't need 100% certainty to act. You need just enough clarity to move one step. And the funny thing, the next step doesn't even show up until you take the first. It's like foggy headlights on a road trip. You can see the whole highway, but you can see just far enough to keep driving. Now let's talk systems. The smartest doers don't rely on moods, they rely on systems. A system is a daily writing routine, not I'll write when inspired. A scheduled upload day, not I'll post when I have time. A fixed call time for leads, not I'll reply when I feel confident. Systems turn hope into results. Because while motivation asks, do I feel like it today? Systems say, it's on the calendar. Let's go. You Dante, rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And if you're waiting for perfect timing to start, just remember, the longer you wait, the scarier it feels. The scarier it feels, the less likely you'll begin. And eventually, you'll build a life around avoidance. But if you can make a habit of acting early, even before you feel ready, that habit will serve you for decades. Final note, don't worship potential. People will say, you've got so much potential. That's not a compliment if it stays unrealized. Potential is just unused energy. Convert it, even if it's messy, even if it's awkward, even if no one claps right away, because at least you'll be in the game. And the game is the only place where growth happens. Let's flip the camera inward for a moment. Have you ever felt stuck? Not because of the world, but because of your identity. You keep telling yourself, I'm not a business person. I'm not creative. I've never been consistent. I'm too late to the game. These aren't just passing thoughts, they're scripts. And the more you repeat them, the more your brain builds reality around them. But here's the twist most people miss. Identity isn't fixed. It's a decision reinforced by action. You don't become consistent and then act, you act. And that builds consistency. You don't wait until you're creative to make something. You make things, and creativity shows up through the reps. Let's take it deeper. There's something called identity lag. It's when your actions have already changed, but your self-image hasn't caught up yet. Example, you've posted YouTube videos for 30 days, but you still think, I'm not really a creator. You've exercised every morning for 2 months, but you still say, I'm not a fitness person. This gap, that's the echo of your past self, trying to stay in control, but you don't owe the past version of you any loyalty. They made decisions with less knowledge, less courage, and less discipline. Why keep them in charge? You've evolved. Let your identity catch up. Here's a quick mindset switch that changes everything. Don't ask, who am I to do this? Ask, who do I become if I keep doing this? Because every action is a vote for the future version of you. Every small risk, every post, every project, it's all casting a ballot. And the good news? You don't need 1,000 votes. Just enough momentum until the shift becomes obvious. Now, a little humor break. You know those people who say, I'm just waiting for the universe to give me a sign, and then life drops. A layoff, a breakup, a medical scare, a bill you can't ignore. That was the sign, bro. The universe doesn't send texts, it sends discomfort. Growth doesn't knock, it barges in and flips your chair. And if you ignore the first whisper, it'll yell louder, until you have no choice but to move. So instead of waiting for signs, start making them. Be the signal. Make a bold move that shocks your system. Launch the project. Book the flight. Apply for the opportunity. Message the person, not because you're ready, but because you're ready enough. Final shift for this part. You've probably heard the phrase, life is short. It's true, but let's remix it. Life is long. If you start now, the earlier you begin, the more time you have to compound, to get better, to fix mistakes, to build a body of work you're proud of. Waiting makes life short. Doing makes it expansive. So when in doubt, start. Because the most dangerous risk isn't failing. It's becoming someone who never even tried. Let's get brutally honest. Most people aren't stuck because of bad luck. They're stuck because of decision fatigue, distraction, and delay. You've probably felt it. You make a to-do list. You get excited. Then suddenly, phone buzzes. Your mood dips. You overthink step 1, and boom, you're in another YouTube spiral, watching someone else live your dream. Sound familiar? Here's the truth. Most productivity gurus don't say out loud, it's not that people don't have time. It's that they don't protect it. Your calendar isn't just filled by meetings. It's flooded by unspoken fears. What if this fails? What if they laugh? What if it works? And I can't handle the pressure. So the brain does what it loves, it avoids, and it justifies the avoidance with fake productivity. Rearranging your desk, buying one more book, researching gear for the business you haven't started. Let's call it what it is. Professional procrastination. And the only cure, constraint. Do less, but do it relentlessly. Decide your one main thing, not 5, not 10, 1. Then build your day around protecting it like a lion protects cubs. Let's bring in a visual. Imagine you're in a boxing ring. On one side is the dream, on the other side is distraction, wearing 10 different outfits, Netflix, overthinking, inbox, doom scrolling, anxiety loops. You step in, gloves up, but the bell never rings. Why? Because you never throw the first punch. You wait. You hesitate, you analyze their moves, but all that prep, it just makes the opponent stronger. Inaction feeds the enemy. Have you ever cleaned your entire room, reorganized the kitchen, vacuumed under the bed, and even called your distant uncle just to avoid writing one email? Yeah, we've all been there. The brain loves any task except the one that could change your life. Here's the reframe. If it feels scary, it's probably the right next move. Not because fear is always accurate, but because fear shows where your growth edge is. And most success stories, they didn't begin with clarity. They began with, I don't know how, but I'll start. I'm scared, but I'll do it anyway. This might suck, but I'm doing it. Let's finish with a story. There's a man who dreamed of opening a restaurant. He kept waiting for the perfect location, perfect investors, perfect chef. 10 years passed, then a kid down the street started selling tacos from a food truck. Dirty tires, wobbly table, broken speaker, but the line grew. Every week, every month. Today, the kid owns 3 locations. The man is still planning. While you're waiting for the perfect wave, someone else is learning to swim in chaos. So, Jim, make it messy. You can't perfect a project you never start. And that's the secret of smart risk. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to move before fear wins. Let's wrap this part with one question to carry into your next decision. Is this delay protecting me, or just preserving my comfort? Because comfort doesn't build legacies, courage does. And courage, my friend, isn't loud. It's quiet, small, and daily, just like your next move. Ever heard the phrase, go big or go home? Well, sometimes going small is how you actually win big. Let me tell you a quick story. There was once a guy, not a millionaire, not a genius, just a regular guy who wanted to start running. But he was overweight, tired all the time, and hated exercise. So instead of committing to 5K runs or buying expensive gear, he made a weird little rule. He'd put on his running shoes and just walk to his mailbox. That's it. Day 1, walked to the mailbox. Day 2, walked to the mailbox. Day 3, walked to the end of the street. By day 20, he was jogging 10 minutes without even realizing it. No big speech, just motion. It's called micro-momentum, the tiniest consistent actions that build into something powerful. Here's the psychology behind it. Every time you act, no matter how small, you cast a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. You want to be a writer? Write 1 paragraph. Want to be fit? Do 5 push-ups. Want to launch a business? Sketch 1 idea. Email 1 person. Register the domain. Each action says, this is who I am. And your brain, funny thing, it listens. Now let's talk about a more intense case. A prisoner locked in solitary confinement for 7 years. No books, no entertainment, just a floor and 4 walls. What did he do? Every day, he wrote letters, hundreds of them. No one ever replied. But those letters, they became his training ground. He later became a best-selling author. He once said, I didn't write to get free. I wrote so my soul wouldn't rust. Discipline is not about success. It's about identity. Let's pause for a second. All of this might sound inspiring, but I know what some of you are thinking. What if I try and still fail? Good question. Here's the twist. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the path to it. But we live in a world obsessed with perfect outcomes. Get the result. Get it fast. Make it look good. What about the messy middle? The 6 months where nobody claps for you? The phase where your YouTube videos get 14 views? Where your startup loses money? Where your dream feels like a joke? That part is where 95% of people quit. Why? Because their goal was attention, not alignment. Discipline isn't about proving something to the world. It's about proving something to yourself. Let's go a bit deeper. Spiritually, according to the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 47, you have the right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. In modern terms, do your work. Show up. Forget the applause. Do you think Elon Musk didn't fail? Tesla almost died. SpaceX exploded rockets. Twitter tried to cancel him weekly, but he kept building. Why? Because he wasn't chasing comfort, he was chasing clarity. When you operate from clarity, failure becomes feedback, not death. So the next time you're scared to start, remember, your job is not to be perfect. Your job is to persist. Let's get brutally honest. Do you know what kills more dreams than failure? Comfort, not pain, not poverty, not rejection. Comfort, it's silent, it's cozy, it's seductive, and it whispers, stay here. you're doing fine. But here's the thing about comfort zones. They renamed that way for a reason. They feel good until they don't. Because while you're binge watching one more show or scrolling through someone else's highlight reel, your potential is quietly suffocating. Let's bring in a little humor. Imagine a lion, king of the jungle, wearing pajamas, eating chips, watching Netflix, saying, "I'll go hunt tomorrow." Sounds funny, right? But how many lions do you know doing exactly that? We weren't built for comfort. We were built for conquest. Not conquests over others, but over our own laziness. Our fears, our excuses. Discipline is your rebellion against the easy life. Here's something wild from research. According to a 2021 study from the University of Chicago, people who consistently delayed gratification and leaned into effort over comfort had higher life satisfaction scores than even the high-income earners who didn't. In short, struggle today can mean joy tomorrow, comfort today. That's often regret with a blanket. Still not convinced? Let me tell you a secret about every successful person you admire. They didn't get there because they always felt motivated. They got there because they didn't wait to feel ready. They acted while tired. They worked through doubt. They created on days they didn't feel creative. Why? Because comfort is a trap dressed like a reward. Discipline? That's the real freedom in disguise. Let's flip the script on fear. Because fear isn't the enemy. The real enemy, stagnation disguised as caution. We often say, "I'm just being careful." But deep down, it's not caution. It's fear playing dress up. Fear that we'll fail. Fear of judgment. Fear that we'll look stupid or waste time or disappoint someone. But here's the irony. You know who never gets judged? Who never looks stupid? Who never fails? The person who never tries. And they also never grow. Let's throw in a funny but true metaphor. Imagine someone standing outside a gym, wearing workout clothes, drinking a protein shake, scrolling fitness pages, but never going inside. That's what inaction looks like. I'm thinking about it. Meanwhile, time isn't thinking, it's moving. And here's what's even more dangerous. When you delay action for too long, you start creating a fake life in your head. A fantasy version of yourself that's about to start, planning to build, almost ready. But there's a gap between that imagined self and the real one. And that gap, it hurts. It drains you silently. So, what's the cure? It's not reading one more quote. It's not another vision board. It's movement. Small, clumsy, imperfect, but forward. Because here's the cheat code to life. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after. You don't wait to feel brave to speak. You speak and then realize you survived. You don't wait to feel qualified to begin. You begin and then you become qualified. Remember, you don't have to jump the whole staircase. Just take the first step. And when in doubt, remind yourself, the cost of inaction is always invisible until it's too late. Imagine this. You're at the edge of a cold swimming pool. You dip one toe in. It's freezing, so you step back. Then you walk around it. Watch others swim, maybe even give advice. Start from the shallow end. Do a warm-up first. But still, you don't jump in. Why? Because thinking about action often feels safer than doing it. But here's what nobody tells you. The fastest way to stop fearing the water is to get wet. Overthinking is a trap disguised as intelligence. You feel productive, but nothing changes. Let's call it the planning trap. You make lists, you color code them, you watch tutorials, you set reminders, but no execution. It's like sharpening a pencil for hours and never writing anything. Funny, right? Now apply that to your real life. You want to start a YouTube channel? Great. Upload one video. You want to start a side hustle? Try one sale. You want to lose weight? Do one workout. Today, micro momentum greater than mega. Here's the paradox. The bigger the dream, the smaller your first step should be. Not because your dream is weak, but because your disciplined muscle needs warm-up. You don't bench press 100 kilograms on day one. You start with the bar, then you grow into it. Every time you act, you tell your brain, I'm a person who does things, even if small, even if scared. That identity shift is the true win. It's not about massive action every time. It's about consistent motion, even when it's uncomfortable. That's what separates the dreamers from the doers. So the next time your brain says, what if I fail? Respond with, what if I stay stuck? Because in the end, the risk of staying the same is far greater than the risk of trying. Let's go deeper. What actually happens in your body when you take a small, courageous action? Science has a name for it, the confidence-competence loop. Here's how it works. You take a small action, even if that action builds a tiny bit of competence. Competence boosts your confidence. With that new confidence, you take a slightly bigger action. The loop continues, and suddenly, you're unstoppable. It's not magic, it's chemistry. Each time you act, your brain releases dopamine, the feel-good chemical. But here's the catch. Dopamine isn't just a reward, it's fuel for future action. So when you procrastinate, you're not being lazy. You're missing the spark that momentum creates. Let's break a common myth. I'll wait till I'm confident. No. Confidence is not a prerequisite to action. It's a byproduct of it. The most confident people you admire, they didn't wait to feel ready. They earned readiness through tiny, repeated courage. Now, let's flip to something most people ignore. Fear of success. Yes, you heard that right. Not fear of failure, fear of what happens if it actually works. It sounds like this. What if I can't keep it up? What will people expect from me? What if I outgrow my friends? These fears are subtle, sneaky, but they're often the real reason we stall. Because success changes your identity, and identity shifts are uncomfortable. So what's the solution? Not therapy, not self-help books. Just start small. Your nervous system can't panic over a 5-minute task, but complete enough of them, and you build a new normal. One where action is default, risk is manageable, progress becomes addictive. Let's lighten it up with a real story. A guy wanted to start running, but he was out of shape and hated exercise. So his plan? Put on his running shoes every day at 6 a.m. That's it. No running, just the shoes. On day 3, he stepped outside. On day 5, he jogged to the mailbox. By week 2, he was doing a full lap around the block. 6 months later, he ran his first half marathon, all because he mastered the art of starting, and if he can, so can you. This isn't motivational fluff. It's biology, psychology, real-life strategy. When you act, you rewire your brain. You change from someone who waits for life to someone who moves through life. And you know what? That shift is the real success. Let's talk about a powerful force that either propels your momentum or completely kills it. Your environment. You could have the best intentions. You could read all the books. You could even have a detailed action plan. But if you're constantly surrounded by distractions, drama, or people who secretly want you to stay small, game over. Let's make this painfully clear. Discipline is easier when your environment doesn't require willpower. If junk food is out of your house, you don't need to resist it. If your phone is in another room, you don't need to fight the urge. If your friends support your vision, you don't have to explain yourself. Success becomes less about inner struggle and more about strategic design. Here's a funny analogy. Imagine you're trying to eat healthy, but your kitchen looks like this. Cookies on the counter, ice cream in the freezer, pizza coupons taped to the fridge, and then you say, I just need more willpower. No, you need to stop setting traps for your future self. Build an environment that supports the identity you want, not the one you're trying to outgrow. Now, here's the deeper truth. Your digital environment matters just as much. If the first thing you see in the morning is breaking news, a celebrity scandal, or someone's fake lifestyle on Instagram, congratulations, your brain is now hijacked before breakfast. Try this instead. Leave your phone outside the bedroom. Use a notebook to write 3 small actions you'll take today. Play your own thoughts before the world plays its noise. It sounds simple, even boring. But this boring habit, it makes you the pilot of your day, not just a passenger. Let's add some humor again. You know that one friend who says, I work better under pressure. What they really mean is, I've normalized panic, avoided structure, and secretly crave chaos. Sure, some people can pull off last-minute magic, but momentum isn't about emergency performance. It's about daily alignment. The best creators, athletes, and entrepreneurs in the world, they don't wait for inspiration. They design conditions where inspiration is invited every day. Now, one final gem in this part. Your surroundings either reinforce your future or repeat your past. There is no neutral environment. Every room you enter, physical or digital, is shaping who you become. So ask yourself, do the people around you celebrate action? Does your space reflect clarity or chaos? Do your habits feel like resistance or rhythm? Because here's the punchline. You don't rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your systems, and the simplest system is your space. Change it, and you'll change faster than you thought possible. Let's flip the script on failure, because here's a hard truth many avoid. Fear of failure kills more dreams than failure itself. You know what's funny? Most people think failure is some huge crash. Public embarrassment, complete collapse, losing everything. But in reality, failure usually just looks like learning something didn't work. You try something, it flops. You recalibrate. You try again, smarter. That's it. But society dramatizes failure so much that people treat it like an identity instead of an event. I failed becomes I'm a failure. Let's look at it differently. If you try a business and it doesn't work, you're not a failed entrepreneur. You're an experienced beginner. If you speak on camera and feel awkward, you're not a bad speaker. You're someone who just got 1 rep stronger. If you ask someone out and they say no, you're not undesirable. You're brave. You're collecting information. You're building muscles that invisible people never earn. Here's a funny metaphor. Imagine learning to ride a bike, but every time you fall, a crowd of people appears screaming. You're terrible at this. You'll never ride. Shame on you. Ridiculous. But that's how many people treat failure as adults. We don't fear the fall. We fear the eyes watching us fall. So we avoid trying altogether. But here's the twist. Most people are too busy worrying about their own image to even notice your stumble. So go ahead. Fall. Laugh. Get up. Because while others are perfectly still, you're becoming unstoppably real. Let's add a bold reframe. Rejection is redirection. That deal you didn't close, it taught you how to pitch better. That person who ghosted you, it freed you to find alignment. That video with only 12 views, it became practice for your next viral idea. Each L just means lesson. Unless you never learn, then it really is a loss. So the goal isn't to never fail, it's to fail forward. Tiny example, you post something and get 0 engagement. You feel discouraged, you quit posting, or you tweak the hook. Try again, test, adjust, improve. Next thing you know, someone demiss you. That video changed my perspective. That's what smart risk looks like. Now here's a discipline anchor. Track your tries, not just your wins. If you're only measuring results, you'll always feel behind. But if you start measuring movement, the game changes. Try this. Write down one bold thing you tried each week, even if it failed. Celebrate the act, not just the outcome. Over time, you'll build emotional resilience, not perfectionism, and that's what makes you unstoppable. Failure isn't fatal, stagnation is. Let's talk about comfort zones, or as some call them, the soft cages. They feel safe, warm, predictable. But here's the truth. Comfort zones don't keep you safe. They keep you stuck. And the worst part, they shrink over time. Let's visualize it. Imagine you're standing in a circle. Every time you say no to something that scares you, the circle gets smaller. Say no to public speaking, the world you can impact shrinks. Say no to that side hustle, your earnings ceiling lowers. Say no to difficult conversations, your relationships stay shallow. Soon, you're trapped in a tight loop of routines and excuses. But when you lean into discomfort, the circle expands. Every little risk, every awkward first, every uncertain yes, grows your capacity. And that's where life starts to open. Here's the twist most people miss. The real discomfort isn't trying and failing. It's looking back and realizing you never tried. We've all heard older folks say things like, I wish I had started that project. I should have taken that trip. I regret staying silent. Notice they rarely say, I wish I had played it safer. Because safety isn't the memory. Movement is. Want a funny but true metaphor? Staying in your comfort zone is like living on a treadmill, set to slow decline. You feel like you're standing still. But over time, you're actually moving backwards. Your skills dull. Your confidence fades. Your opportunities dry up. But action, even messy action, that's the anti-aging serum of your goals. Let's talk adaptability for a second. Life doesn't reward the smartest or the strongest. It rewards the most adaptive. The people who can learn on the fly, adjust when plans fail, experiment without ego. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing to update yourself more often than your phone does. That's why smart risk matters. Because when you bet on growth, you never truly lose. Even if it flops, even if no one claps, even if it's messy and awkward and unsure, you still win the lesson. You still build momentum. You still expand your circle. So here's your challenge. This week, do one thing that mildly terrifies you. Not something reckless, just something uncomfortable. Talk to a stranger. Pitch an idea. Post something vulnerable. Raise your hand. Whatever it is, log it. That's how your new identity builds. Because you're no longer just a dreamer. You're a doer in motion. Let's strip it all down. Underneath the fear. Beneath the excuses. Past the there's one quiet truth. You already know what to do. Not everything. Not the whole 10-year roadmap. But the next right step. You know it. The call to make, the video to publish, the job to quit, the person to forgive, the idea to test, and that tiny voice inside you, the one you've been ignoring, negotiating with, or postponing. It's not going anywhere. Because growth doesn't scream, it whispers. Here's the uncomfortable part. Your success depends less on talent and more on tolerance. Tolerance for boredom, tolerance for rejection, tolerance for doing it wrong before doing it right. Most people don't fail because they lack skill. They fail because they lack stamina for the unknown. But you've made it to part 20. You're not. Most people, you're someone who's willing to hear the hard truth. So here it is. Doing nothing is a decision. And often, it's the worst one. Let's get real with some humor. Do you ever see someone Googling how to get fit fast? With chips in one hand and a soda in the other? We laugh. But we do the same with dreams. We scroll motivational videos, save posts, feel inspired, then do nothing. It's like buying a gym membership and thinking ABS will be delivered to your house in 3 to 5 business days. Nope, change requires sweat, and sweat doesn't lie. But here's the uplifting part. Your life can look radically different 12 months from now. If you start moving today, not with big flashy moves, but with one hard conversation, one new habit, one less excuse. Over time, those stacked. Confidence becomes quiet, discipline becomes normal, risks become reps, and suddenly, people ask, how did you do it? You'll smile, because they're asking the wrong question. It's not how you did it, it's that you finally did. So as we close this series, remember this. The smartest risk you'll ever take is betting on the person you were always meant to become, and the cost of inaction is not just regret, it's missing the life that could have been yours. Start scared, start slow, Start messy, because doing nothing will never take you anywhere new. But even the tiniest step might change everything.